It was around 2 years ago that I built a cabinet inside my kitchen, a corner cabinet, that has what's known as an appliance garage in the bottom. And what this gives you is a place on the countertop itself to store appliances that you use fairly often, but not have them sitting out on the counter, collecting dust and whatnot. And to close these off, typically what you have is what you see right here. This is a Tambour door. It's made from strips of wood and it rolls up inside the cabinet. To get started, I picked out some of the spalted maple that I milled up a few years ago. It's dry enough now to use. And I'm going to run one face through the jointer just to get a look at the wood and see what I have to work with. I'll flip the wood over and draw a line on there to guide a freehand cut that I'm going to do on the bandsaw, just to straighten out the edge reasonably enough before I bring it back to the jointer again and straighten that edge and square it to the face that I already planed. With that one edge squared up, the next thing I'm going to do is bring it to my table saw and rip these into oversized strips. And the idea here is to allow any drying stress that's still present in the wood to release while I'm cutting it. I got them all cut and I have more than I actually need. And that's a good thing, you don't want to come up short with this. Better to have a couple too many. And the next thing I need to do is bring these down to the final dimensions. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut off the other ragged side or edge. And that'll reduce a lot of the work I'm going to have to do on the surface planer. And that's what I'm using now to bring these down to the final thickness and width. If you're serious about learning woodworking, you can get a lot from watching videos like this. However, if you want to go deeper and get the kind of detail that it's not practical to show here on YouTube, you can join my Makers Mob and get a much more in-depth experience. Along with my projects, you'll also get access to YouTube's top makers like John Peters, Frank Howarth, the Samurai Carpenter, Neil Paskin, and Jimmy DeResta. If you're interested and you are serious about woodworking, there's a link in the description that'll take you right there. So I finished planing all the slats, and now what I'm doing is I'm laying them out and I'm selecting the best side to face outwards and also selecting the area that has the most or best looking figure, because I haven't cut these to length yet, and that'll be the next step. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use my square to draw a line on the left side, or my left side anyway, and then measure over 16.5 inches and draw another line. And then I'm going to number these from the top down on the very end. With them all cut to length, I'm going to round over the corners on each slat, all four. I'm using my router table. It has the smallest round over bit that I have. I think it's 1/8 inch. And I'm going to run those through, and hopefully I don't get any chip out. But I do have 1 or 2 extra slats. Now I've taken it outdoors in my backyard. I can spray on a coat of water-based polyurethane on the front and the back, and then I'm going to lightly sand each slat and spray it again. Now that I have the slats finished, I can start putting the door together. And the way these are usually made is there's a piece of cloth glued onto the back on every slat, and it acts almost like a hinge between each slat as well, and it keeps the whole thing together. It's the next day and I'm ready to put the door in. The first thing I did was I took off both side tracks, and that's because I already tried this with one side track removed and it wouldn't go. The thing is too floppy and too difficult to handle inside a cabinet that's already installed. And what I'm doing right now is I'm trying again. I've got this stick that I'm using to support the door, the roll, on the back, and that'll help guide it up into the top track. And you can see this is a struggle. This would be a lot easier to do if the cabinet wasn't installed. But I eventually got it in, and then I found that the top track is actually a bit too tight. So I had to take it out again, and then I brought the top track parts out to the shop, and I cut a little bit out to give me a little bit more space, and I put them back in. And now you can see that this is my second time putting it in, and this time it's going a little bit smoother. However, when I put the side tracks back on, I found that it was getting hung up a little bit, and I figured that was right on the curve on the right side. Maybe a little bit too tight, so I took that track off again, and I used my sanding stick to tune that up. And then when I put it back in again, it worked the way it's supposed to. Final thing to do with this, of course, is to put the handle on, and I considered doing this before. However, this thing is heavy enough as it is without putting a bulky, heavy handle on there as well. And besides, this is not difficult. All I need to do is carefully mark it out, drill the holes with a 3/16 inch bit with a stick to make sure that I don't, get some heavy breakout on the back, and then screw the handle in place. And this is what it looks like finished.